I was 23, broke, and tired of pretending I loved my job. The coffee machine was my therapist, and the bathroom stall, my sanctuary. I worked as a junior graphic designer at a marketing agency run by him, Nathaniel Crane, CEO, 40-something. Suave, smug, and sharp as a razor dipped in sarcasm. The kind of man who made you feel small just by looking at you. And yet, I was stupid enough to say yes when he invited me to dinner. "I like your ideas, Madison," he said that afternoon, leaning on the edge of my desk like he owned the air around him. "I think we should discuss your future here. Over steak. Say, 7? You know what's worse than red flags? Red flags dressed in Armani. But flattery is a drug. And I'd been sober too long. So I went. The restaurant was expensive. Too expensive. One of those dimly lit places where everyone whispers and forks cost more than my rent. Nathaniel was already seated when I arrived. He stood up, pulled out my chair, smiled like a wolf pretending to be vegan. "You look fresh," he said, letting his eyes travel down my dress. "Gross." But I smiled. I played the part. That's what you do when you need the promotion. Or when you don't want to be stuck doing layout for toothpaste ads forever. We ordered wine. He ordered for me. I let it slide. The conversation started normal. Career paths, the company's future, my potential. Then it got weird. "I live outside the city," he said, sipping his wine. "Quiet. Private. No neighbors. You should see it sometime." "Maybe," I said, laughing nervously. He leaned in. "I'm serious, Madison. You'd like it. It's peaceful. Especially at night." I laughed again. This time it sounded more like choking. Then his phone buzzed. He checked it, locked the screen, slid it face down. "Family," he said. "Always something." "Family?" I asked, trying to sound casual. "I didn't know you had one." His smile twitched, just a little, like a mask slipping. "Wife? Kids? It's complicated." I nodded, pretending I didn't care, pretending my stomach hadn't just dropped into my heels. But here's the thing. I did care. Because he was flirting. Because he was married. And because I'd just seen something strange when his phone lit up. A photo. Of a woman. She looked scared. I went home with more questions than answers. And like any idiot with a brain poisoned by true crime podcasts and an unhealthy dose of curiosity, I started digging. First, I searched for his wife. Nothing on social media. No tags, no posts, no birthdays, no vacations. Weird. Then I searched public records. A marriage license from 10 years ago. No divorce. Kids? 2. A boy and a girl. Ages 6 and 8. Also, no trace online. And that's when I got really stupid. Decided to follow him. Friday evening, he left the office early. I slipped out 10 minutes later, hopped into my beat-up hatchback, and tailed his black SUV through winding roads until the city lights faded behind us. He drove for over an hour, into the woods. Literally, trees got thicker. Cell service got weaker. Eventually, he pulled into a long gravel driveway, barely visible from the road. There was a gate, a keypad, security cameras. I parked far enough not to be seen, close enough to spy. What I saw chilled me. A massive house. Barred windows, and a little girl watching from the second floor. Her hand pressed to the glass. I drove home with my hands shaking. What the hell had I just seen? Was he keeping them there? Was his family in that house? Against their will? Didn't sleep. I couldn't. Not after what I saw. But I knew one thing for sure. My boss had a secret. And now, I had one too. Let me start by saying this. Curiosity isn't cute. It's not charming. It's not whimsical like books and indie films make it seem. Curiosity is an arsonist in a silk robe, whispering, "Go on. Just take one more step." And that's how people end up missing, which is exactly what I was risking when I drove back into the woods the next night, alone, in my crappy hatchback, with zero signal and the worst plan ever. Break into my boss's secret house to see if his wife and kids were actually being held there. Because, plot twist, I was convinced they were. I had no proof, just a gut feeling. And the way the girl in the window looked like she was silently screaming. I also had one advantage. The restaurant receipt. Yeah, I kept it. Why? Because it had his Amex card's last 4 digits, and Nathaniel Crane is a narcissist. You know what narcissists love? Personal key codes, and I'd bet my last instant ramen that his house code matched those 4 numbers. It was Saturday night. I was wearing all black. Hoodie, leggings, sneakers. Not cute black. Crime black. I parked in the same spot as before, heart pounding so loud I could feel it in my ears. The gate was closed, keypad blinking red. I crept up, wiped my sweaty palms on my thighs, and punched in the code. 4387. Nothing. I cursed under my breath, then tried 4783, then 8734, then reversed it. Then added a pound sign. On the 6th try, the gate clicked. 87 again. I guess I hit the wrong key the first time. Adrenaline lit up every nerve in my body. The gate opened. I was in. The driveway was long. Too long. Trees pressed in on both sides, like spectators at a funeral procession. The house came into view, big, cold, and quiet. No lights, no movement, just a house pretending to sleep. I stayed in the shadows, circled to the back. The windows were reinforced. Bolted shut, like a prison. But the back door? It had a deadbolt, a keypad, and cameras. I ducked under one, held my breath, and tried the code again. 4387. Click. I was really in now. The kitchen smelled like bleach and money. White marble, stainless steel. A row of knives too pristine to ever be used. I moved like I was inside a dream I didn't want to have. The hallway creaked under my steps. I froze at every sound, but the house was too quiet. No TV, no hum of appliances, no distant voices, just the whisper of air conditioning and the thud of my heart. I opened a door to what looked like an office. Books lined the walls. Mostly law, finance, psychology. Of course. His laptop sat open on the desk, unlocked, because narcissists don't expect anyone to cross them. I sat down, hands trembling, and clicked through folders. One was labeled Family Archive. Another was labeled Treatment Logs. I opened. The second one. What I saw made my blood freeze. Dates, times, names. Administered sedative at 9:04 p.m. Isolation maintained. Minimal verbal engagement. Subject attempted to scream. Reinforced gag. Subject. Not wife. Not daughter. Subject. This wasn't a home. It was a lab. And Nathaniel was the mad scientist. I heard a sound. Footsteps. Not heavy. Light. I darted under the desk just as the door opened. A small figure entered, barefoot, pajamas, holding a stuffed rabbit. The little girl. She walked to the desk, reached for the laptop, paused. Then she whispered, "Who are you?" I nearly screamed. "Shh," I said, crawling out slowly. "I'm Madison. I work with your dad." Her eyes widened. "You're not supposed to be here." "No," I said, "but I think neither are you." She blinked. "My name is Lily," she said. "Are you here to help us?" "Us." "Where's your mom?" I asked. "In the basement," she said. "She sleeps a lot." The word basement felt like a slap. I held out my hand. She took it. We tiptoed down the hall, past rooms that were locked, a security panel that blinked green. Lily pointed to a door near the pantry. "Down there," she whispered. I turned the knob. It creaked. The stairs were narrow and dark, musty. Each step felt like I was walking deeper into someone's mind. At the bottom was another keypad, but the door was open. Inside, I found her. The wife. She was lying on a cot. Thin, pale, eyes half open, like a doll with a broken eyelid. Lily rushed over. "Mommy, this is Madison. She came to help." The woman blinked at me, tried to speak, failed. There were needle marks on her arms, a camera in the corner, a clipboard with notes, administered sedative, refused food, attempted to speak unauthorized phrase. I read it twice. Then I snapped. I turned to Lily. "Pack anything you love. We're leaving. Now." She nodded like a soldier taking orders. We rushed upstairs. I checked the driveway. Still clear. She grabbed a small backpack, stuffed in a few things. I carried her mother up the stairs. She was lighter than a scarecrow. I didn't stop to think, didn't breathe. Just moved. Back door, out, gate, open. We reached the car. I shoved the mother into the back seat, buckled Lily in beside her, started the engine. And that's when the security alarm blared. Nathaniel knew. I drove like hell. Racing through the dark, down winding roads, not daring to look back. The SUV wasn't behind us yet. I turned off my headlights, trusted the moon. Lily was shaking. Her mom was slipping in and out of consciousness. I kept driving, faster, until I saw the first gas station, pulled in, called the police, said what I knew, told them to bring everything they had. And then I waited. They found Nathaniel's house, empty. He was gone. Laptop wiped, cameras disconnected. He knew how to disappear. But now I knew how to hunt, and I wasn't done, because this wasn't over. Not even close. I always thought paranoia was a side effect of too much caffeine and not enough sleep. Turns out, it's just a side effect of being right. After rescuing Lily and her mother from Nathaniel's house of horrors, I expected some peace. Maybe a thank you card, a fruit basket. Instead, I got a restraining order and a polite suggestion to seek therapy. The police called it a domestic dispute. The media called it a misunderstanding. Nathaniel called his lawyer, and I called bullshit. Lily and her mother were placed under protective custody, which, in this case, meant a motel room with a broken lock and a view of the dumpster. I visited them when I could, bringing snacks and coloring books. Lily liked to draw, mostly pictures, of houses with no windows. Her mother, Emily, was still recovering. Physically, she was healing. Mentally, well, let's just say she flinched every time the ice machine made a noise. I tried to comfort them, but I wasn't exactly a beacon of stability myself. My nights were filled with nightmares, and my days were spent looking over my shoulder. Because Nathaniel was still out there, I started digging. Again. Nathaniel had vanished, but his digital footprint hadn't. I traced his credit card activity, his email logins, even his gym membership. Nothing. It was like he never existed. But then I remembered something. During our dinner, he mentioned a cabin. Quiet, private, no neighbors. At the time, I thought, he was trying to impress me. Now I realized he was warning me. I searched property records and found it. A cabin registered under a shell corporation, located in the middle of nowhere. Perfect for a man who wanted to disappear. I packed a bag, grabbed my taser, and hit the road. The cabin was nestled deep in the woods, surrounded by trees that whispered secrets to each other. It looked abandoned, but the fresh tire tracks told a different story. I approached cautiously, every step crunching on the gravel like a gunshot. The door was ajar. I pushed it open, taser at the ready. Inside, it was dark. The air smelled of mildew and something else, something metallic. I moved through the rooms, heart pounding. Then I saw it. A wall covered in photographs. Of me. At work, at home, at the grocery store. Notes scribbled in the margins. She knows. Too curious. Must be silenced. I turned to leave, but a figure blocked the doorway. Nathaniel. He looked different. Gaunt, with wild eyes and a beard that hadn't seen a razor in weeks. But the smile was the same. Cold and calculating. Madison, he said, stepping closer. I was wondering when you'd find me. I raised the taser. Stay back. He laughed. You think that toy will stop me? I pressed the trigger. The taser crackled, and he collapsed, convulsing on the floor. I didn't wait to see if he got up. I ran. Back at the motel, I found Emily and Lily gone. The room was ransacked, the window shattered. A note was pinned to the wall. Round 2. I called the police, but they were no help. No signs of forced entry, they said. Maybe they left voluntarily. Right, because everyone enjoys a spontaneous kidnapping. I knew what I had to do. I returned to the cabin, this time with a plan. I set up cameras, traps, and alarms. If Nathaniel wanted a game, I was ready to play. Days passed. Then one night, I heard a noise, a twig snapping. I watched the monitors as a figure approached the cabin. It was Lily, alone. I rushed outside, but she vanished into the trees. I followed, calling her name. Then everything went black. I woke up tied to a chair, my head throbbing. Nathaniel stood before me holding a knife. Welcome back, he said. I've missed our chats. I struggled against the ropes. Where are they? He smiled. Safe, for now. I needed to buy time. Why me? Why target me? He leaned in. Because you're special, Madison. You're the only one who sees the truth. I spat in his face. You're insane. Wiped it off, unfazed. Perhaps, but at least I'm not alone. He stepped aside, revealing Lily and Emily, both tied up, their eyes wide with fear. This ends now, I said. He laughed. Oh, I agree. Suddenly, the cabin filled with smoke. Alarms blared. The traps I'd set had been triggered. In the chaos, I managed to free myself and the others. We fought our way out, using everything we could find as weapons. Nathaniel lunged at me, knife in hand. I dodged, grabbed a log from the fireplace, and swung. He collapsed, unconscious. We didn't wait. We ran, leaving the cabin and him behind. The police finally believed us. Nathaniel was arrested, and this time, there was no escaping justice. Emily and Lily were placed in a safe house, and I returned to my life, forever changed. But sometimes, late at night, I still hear his voice. "You're special, Madison." And I wonder if he's right. You'd think that after escaping a psycho's forest hideout, things would get easier. They didn't. Nathaniel was arrested, cuffed, processed, thrown into a holding cell that smelled like regret and bleach. The news broke out 2 days later, but instead of headlines like "Corporate Executive Keeps Family Hostage," we got "Troubled CEO Battles Mental Health Crisis." Yeah, that's how they spun it. As if months of kidnapping and abuse could be wrapped in a neat little package labeled, "Oops, my bad. I forgot my meds." The trial was scheduled quickly. Too quickly, if you asked me. His lawyers were sharks in suits, and the whole thing reeked of damage control. I was called as a witness. Of course. I had found the cabin, freed his wife and daughter, tased him in the neck. You'd think I'd get a medal. Instead, I got cross-examined like I was the criminal. "You entered the premises illegally, correct?" "Yes, because I was trying to save people." "But you broke in." "Well, I didn't RSVP, if that's what you're asking." They didn't laugh. The courtroom was freezing. Probably on purpose. It kept people stiff, quiet, scared. The judge was the human embodiment of a shrug. Bored, disinterested, borderline asleep. Emily and Lily sat in the back, protected by a court order and a pair of bodyguards who looked like they'd rather be playing Candy Crush. Nathaniel? Oh, he looked great. Custom suit, fresh haircut. That same smug expression like the world was just one big inside joke, and he was the only one laughing. He even winked at me. Winked, I swear. I almost vaulted over the railing. Day 1 of the trial was a circus. His lawyers painted him as a visionary, a misunderstood genius who wanted to protect his family from the evils of society. According to them, the cabin wasn't a prison. It was a retreat, a therapeutic reset, they called it. Meanwhile, I was described as emotionally unstable and obsessed with her employer. Yeah. Apparently finding a room full of surveillance photos of yourself isn't grounds for panic. It's just proof you're narcissistic. The audacity had calories, and I was choking. But then Emily took the stand. She looked small, fragile, like she'd shrink into her own sweater if she could. But when she opened her mouth, the courtroom froze. She talked about the locks, the isolation, how she hadn't spoken to another adult in years, how she wasn't allowed to own a phone, or a key, or even think about leaving. Nathaniel's lawyers tried to interrupt. The judge waved them off. She kept talking about the threats, the punishments, the long, suffocating days where she'd stare out the window and wonder if anyone even remembered she existed. I glanced at Nathaniel. He wasn't smiling anymore. Lily spoke next, through a video link. They didn't want to traumatize her with the in-person theatrics. She was shy, quiet, but every word was a knife. He told me the world outside would eat us. He said Mom was sick and couldn't be trusted. He said the locks were for our own safety. When asked if she believed him, she shook her head slowly. Not anymore. It should have ended there. But then Nathaniel took the stand. Because of course he did. And in true villain fashion, he spun a monologue so smooth, it could have been ghost-written by Satan himself. He talked about how society was broken, how he feared for his daughter's safety, how the media, the schools, the internet, everything was poison. He said he was trying to save his family from the world's insanity. He looked at the jury with tears in his eyes. He even quoted Nietzsche. Kill. Me. But juries are strange creatures. You never know which way they'll go. Are they buying the whole concerned father bit? Or do they see the predator underneath? Watch them like a hawk. Studied every twitch, every eyebrow raise. Day 3 of deliberation. One juror, middle-aged guy, beige everything, laughed at something Nathaniel said. Just a little chuckle. But I felt it like a gut punch. I needed a plan. Insurance. In case justice failed, and I knew exactly where to start. Remember the cameras I set up in the cabin? Yeah. Turns out, some of them still worked. One had a motion sensor and auto-upload feature I forgot about, and guess what it recorded? Nathaniel, alone, after escaping police custody, returning to the cabin, laughing, talking to himself, digging something. I had no idea what he was burying, but it was creepy enough to raise questions. I pulled the footage and sent it to the prosecutor. Unedited, raw. I also made a copy, because I am not stupid. The next day, the judge called an emergency recess. The defense was blindsided. The footage played on the courtroom monitor like the finale of a true crime series. There he was, shirtless, mud-covered, rambling about cleansing and starting over, whispering to someone who wasn't there. No, Nietzsche this time. Just madness. The jury paled. And Nathaniel? He didn't flinch. Verdict day felt like the end of a bad dream. 12 people filed into the courtroom like they were walking into church. No one looked at him. Or me. The judge asked the question. The foreperson stood. On the count of unlawful imprisonment, guilty. On the count of child endangerment, guilty. On the count of attempted assault, guilty. The rest was a blur. People gasped. Emily cried. I exhaled for what felt like the first time in weeks. Nathaniel? He turned to me and smiled. I should have walked away. Gone home. Celebrated. But I couldn't. That smile haunted me. It said, "This isn't over." And he was right. 2 weeks later, I got a letter. No stamp, no return address. Inside was a photo of me, taken through my apartment window. That's when I snapped. No more running. No more courtrooms. No more tasers. I was done being the mouse. It was time to become the cat. I took a leave of absence, called in a few favors, dug into Nathaniel's past, with more fire than ever before, and I found it. A storage unit, paid in cash, under an alias. Inside, records, files, journals, names, women, dozens of them, former employees, ex-girlfriends, all monitored, tracked, controlled. It wasn't about Emily and Lily. He'd been doing this for years. I turned it all in. Quietly. No press. No drama. Just a thick folder left on the right desk. The DA reopened the case, expanded the charges, called in the FBI. And Nathaniel? Well, he wasn't smiling when they transferred him to federal custody. They say justice is slow. I say it just needed a little push, and a very angry woman with nothing left to lose. You ever have that feeling when something's over, but it's not really over? Like finishing a TV series only to find out there's a whole spin-off you didn't sign up for? Yeah, that was me, a few weeks after Nathaniel was finally locked up in federal prison. And let me tell you, prison was the last place he wanted to be, unless he had a secret plan brewing. Because people like him don't just disappear quietly. They hatch, they plot, they wait. I should have known that. First, let me set the scene. Nathaniel was gone. The trial was over. Emily and Lily were safe. I had my life back, sort of. My phone started buzzing with strange calls, anonymous messages. My apartment was broken into, nothing stolen. Just little signs, a moved chair, a scratched window, a note left on my car windshield that said, "See, you soon. Yeah, thanks for the invite. No thanks." At first I called the cops, filed reports, got the usual, "We'll keep an eye out and, if anything happens, call us immediately." But after the third random incident, I knew this wasn't random. Nathaniel's grip might be broken, but his reach wasn't. So I did what any rational person would do. I became paranoid, and I got good at it. My apartment turned into a fortress. Cameras in every corner. Motion sensors on the windows. A smart lock system that would make Fort Knox jealous. I even hired a security guy named Frank, a grizzled ex-Marine who didn't smile and asked about my relationship with the perp like he was auditioning for Law and Order. Frank didn't joke much, but when he said, "You're being watched," I believed him. Then came the message. Not a text. Not a note. An actual physical delivery. A package, unmarked, no return address. Inside was a small black box. Curious, right? Well, inside that box was a USB drive. I hesitated. Plugging random USB drives into your computer is the kind of thing you only do in movies. But curiosity got the better of me, and oh boy, it was worth it. The files, videos, documents, audio recordings. Nathaniel had been recording everything. Meetings, conversations, threats. But not just at work. At home. In his retreat. Secret meetings with people whose names I didn't recognize. Calls with government officials. Dirty deals. Bribes. He wasn't just a crazy kidnapper. He was running a damn empire of control. And fear. And guess what? There was something else. Something terrifying. A file titled Project Final Lock. I clicked it open, and almost threw up. It was a detailed plan, a roadmap for taking control of multiple companies, blackmailing board members, using his captive wife and daughter as leverage for corporate takeovers. He wasn't just insane. He was diabolical. The plan involved rigging a stock market crash, an elaborate financial heist disguised as an unfortunate market correction. And in the middle of it all? Me. See, Nathaniel wanted to make sure that if he went down, I went down with him. The files showed a deep dive into my life. My finances, my contacts, my weaknesses. He had been building a case to destroy me. Slowly, silently. That's when I realized something important. Nathaniel's biggest mistake wasn't kidnapping his family. It was thinking he could control me. I called Frank immediately. "You ready for a little payback?" I asked. He grinned for the first time in weeks. Been ready since day one. We mapped out a plan. Step 1, leak the files. Step 2, expose every single one of Nathaniel's dirty secrets. Step 3. Make sure he's rotting in a cell for the rest of his miserable life. But we had to be smart. Nathaniel had connections. People who could bury stories faster than you could say lawsuit. So we went underground. We contacted a journalist. A real one. Someone who didn't care about sensational headlines but wanted the truth. We handed over the files, the videos, the recordings. No edits. No censorship. Raw. Brutal. Unstoppable. The story broke in less than 24 hours. Suddenly, Nathaniel's face was everywhere. Corporate boards resigned. Stocks plummeted. The FBI launched an investigation into all his companies, and Nathaniel, he was transferred to a maximum security prison. But here's the kicker. The final lock wasn't on the prison doors. It was on Nathaniel's empire. Weeks later, I received another message. A simple text. Thank you. From Emily, from Lily, from every person Nathaniel tried to silence, and from me. I finally closed the door on that nightmare, because some locks aren't made of steel. They're made of truth. And truth? Well, that's a lock no one can pick.